This crazy times on the stock market obviously gives also chances and maybe chances of a lifetime. And today we're discussing 9 specific stocks and methods that can maybe make you very rich. So we will talk about company bailouts, we will talk about Chinese investors coming to US, and we will talk about turnaround stories. And therefore, without further ado, let's dive into it.
Wolf of Dubai.
So let's talk about airlines real quick. I made another video where I talked about if it's a good chance now to buy into airlines and cruise lines, but airlines are hugely crashed during these timings. Obviously, like American airline losing 75% of their business is really hard, and some companies even will not make it. There are some analysts saying that in May, already the first airlines can go bust. This means bankruptcies. This means very big stress of the government system, especially in the US. Companies were in the last couple of years concentrated on stocks buyback, so they kept their cash flow relatively low. And obviously, if the black swan like this is coming to our economy, nothing is really safe. And therefore, I believe that airlines can be a good, and we see already the first talks that the government want to put out bailout plans for these airlines. And I think if you're looking into a stock there, I think American Airlines is maybe one of these candidates that will be saved. So maybe you can put it on your watch list and see how this further develops. So let's dive into the second one. The second industry that I'm looking at is currently casinos. Casinos are really heavily affected by this kind of ways, because it's a place for entertainment and people come there to Vegas, for example, and stay at the Wynn Resort. And these companies are hugely affected now because people are staying home. They don't want to go into the casinos, a lot of masses coming together and so on and so forth. So not only this, but there's also lots of restaurants, the hotel business, and the entertainment business like concerts, events, and for example Cirque du Soleil shows. So actually you can imagine that this is a huge impact on and stress out on these casinos, and I believe that companies will be bailed out, especially because whole states in US like Nevada are so dependent on this industry. Casinos is #1 industry in Nevada, and so many people and jobs depend on that. And therefore I believe that there will be either bailouts by the company, or, and this is a fact that I want to discuss today, it's also that Chinese investors can see now, as every other investor as well, and see these opportunities. Chinese are okay with the gambling business, and therefore they can come over and purchase big equity, big percentage, and bail out these companies if they are a shortage of money and cash flow. Especially companies like Wynn could have heavily pressure on their balance sheet, and therefore, this comes definitely on my watch list as well. Then beautiful cruise lines, this big and huge ships that was so affected. We just talked about Carnival Corporation. If you want to check out this vlog, it's here. We just talked about if it's right to buy the stocks now. Definitely they are hugely affected with many cruise lines. They have up to hundreds of these huge ships that not only don't get any revenue right now, but also they're having huge costs to stay with these ships on ports. And therefore I believe this is a huge disaster for this kind of companies. And Royal Caribbean, Carnival Corp are those companies that are heavily affected. And I think if they make it through the period, they are also in the plan of the government to get the bailout. So very interesting what will happen. They're a huge dividend stock like Carnival Corp. Make sure to check them out and put them on your watch list. And however, the whole situation is still in very early stages, and you cannot expect what happens next. It's a health crisis, so not monetary policies will stimulate the stock market, but on the other side, it will be hugely dependent what can be done on the health side. Can we find medicine? Can we do something to contain the spread, and therefore this is very important to know what is going on right now. Therefore, totally stay tuned. Here on this channel I'm vlogging every single day, plus live streams. I just wanted to make yesterday a live stream, doesn't work out in the beginning, so maybe the next days. This is huge, amazing times because we can buy on cheap some really great companies. And make sure to also subscribe and like this video if you like it so far. Let's jump to the next one. Tesla stock is definitely one of the big losers of this kind of spread because the current situation is pressuring these stocks heavily. I think Tesla is around $400. Just a couple of weeks ago we was talking about the $1,000 mark, so I'm very curious how this will work out, and I'm very curious how this will further develop, and I'm currently looking from the sidelines to see how this further develop. Definitely it will be a stock that will be at one point of time in the future after all this, maybe in 1 year from now at this levels of $600, $700, $800, then you can double your money from now. And therefore I believe Tesla is still a great company that will survive. They have about $6.8 billion on the positive cash flow side, which can hold the company for at least 1.5 years if everything would break down. So therefore I'm not so much stressed, and definitely it's a buy over the next couple of weeks and months. So stay tuned. Still we don't know how it further develops. I think there's still a way to go for the market down depending on the current development, and therefore let's see how this further evolve. Let's talk about Apple. Apple is one of the biggest companies in the world, and I believe that they can really benefit from this kind of scenario because more people are sitting at home, work from home, need maybe an extra laptop. They buying extra laptops for their kids. iPhones will be bought anyway, and I think the services are being used. I just read that actually companies like Disney or other big Universal Studios are publishing their new cinema movies directly on the streaming platforms like Disney or even Apple Plus, and therefore I believe this is maybe the change in cinema, how we experience cinema, and therefore these companies will benefit. I think Apple is one of the strongest companies out there with huge pile of cash, and they can actually buy now some interesting companies around there as well, which will be quite interesting. And therefore I believe that Tesla might be a candidate even for them, and Apple is definitely a candidate for your watch list to load up some stocks there. Let's talk about Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest retailers out there, and in the e-commerce there's nothing better and bigger than Amazon, and they are now closed down just to deliver medical and grocery supplies to people because it's such a huge demand. They want to get 100,000 people more to work with them. The employees get raises, paid raises to fight the demand. I think Q1 of Amazon will be absolutely crashing it, and therefore Amazon is maybe now or in a couple of days a very good portfolio addition. In the next couple of months they will just go absolutely crazy once this all is a little bit settled. Let's see. Again, this is very delicate situation right now, and you should slowly add on stocks if you want to. Otherwise stay maybe a couple of weeks on the sidelines until we see how this further develops, and therefore let's jump to the next one. The next one is Beyond Meat. As you know, I'm just a fresh Beyond Meat investor, and I'm very happy that I can now buy on discount. So actually I believe that they will also will see a surge of sales, because in the end their production of groceries and vegans will store their products in their shelf, and maybe they will even exceed their expectations of the revenue numbers that they foreseen, like $500 million US, though they will see a crash in the restaurant and other business. Therefore, you have to be very careful in that. However, make sure to put Beyond Meat on your watch list because it's a great company. And if you have a little bit cash on the side, you can actually think about that to put maybe or speak with some small businesses around you. Imagine your favorite grocery store, maybe your favorite pizzeria, your favorite small restaurant. If you're having cash, this channel is not only about stocks but investing, so maybe go around and see some private equity options. They are maybe now very, very cheap. You can buy 10%, 20% of this restaurant and put your cash down and see that you benefit from this kind of investments because they're interesting as well. They will have a really hard time in the next couple of months, and therefore all this help will benefit them, but also benefit you when you can buy a really heavily discounted equity in your private small business around you. Think about it. And the last but not least is absolutely Disney. Disney, the content powerhouse. They will have on the one side some trouble with the new upcoming film productions. They might not happen. And then the amusement parks, but still Disney Plus and other titles will boom. And the people, once this is all over, will go again to amusement parks around the world by Disney. And I think Disney is a great, great company that you can hold for the next 20 years because they are such a solid company, and I believe that it's beautiful what they are doing. And now you can, I always said this is a company that you can put in your portfolio and keep it there for 10, 20 years, and now it's a time to buy it on discount.